So as crazy as this may look to some of you, this seems like the best location to mount the vise in to cut a 45. And trust me, I have moved this vise into every different location and angle I could think of, trying to figure out the best location to cut a 45 where I could most use the limited depth I have here to bring the material through and not hit anything. I mean, I can remove this plate. I really don't want to, and as long as my material stays on this side, I don't need to. But I need to clear this. I don't really want to modify the saw. So, and of course this is going to sit a little higher to get the clearance for the blade to go all the way through, but let me kind of show you. And unfortunately, and the vise is mounted at a 45. Let me double check because I've been moving it around a little bit. The vise is, and I'm using the body of the vise right now. It is close enough to a 45 for what I'm doing at the moment. This cut, unfortunately, here is not perfect. I did that by hand, and of course I can't cut anything straight no matter what I do. So we look at the problem here. You can see that I need to clear, see that front edge right there? That needs to clear the material. And as I come down, it needs to clear the vise there. Now I could move the vise further away, but it'd be nice to have the vise as close to the cut as I could, because that's going to give me, and this saw is not violent in any way, shape, or form. It cuts very smooth, and I could bring it this way, but I would really like to keep as much room this way as possible for a possibly thicker material. But that's my only that's the place that it seems to work the best. So I think I'm going to mock that up. I think I'm just going to use this angle iron here just to make some tabs sticking out to mount it to. It's probably what I should have done here. I thought of it, but if I had done it there, I wouldn't have had that piece of angle iron to do it over here. Anyway, I kind of thought this would be cool, and I still think it is, but now I'm going to have it two different ways. But anyway, that was easier there probably than adding the angle iron in. But now I can just drill it. This angle iron, it's probably thick enough to tap it. I can always put a nut underneath it and tack the nut on. But I think I'm going to cut that up. I'm going to try that now. I'm going to cut that angle up, and I'm going to tack it on, mock the vise up on it, and try a few cuts. Okay, I got my first two tabs down to bolt the vise down and tack weld it on. They're not solid welded yet, but they're tacked and they're drilled. I'll probably hack this off once I'm done, you know, and the bottom too. The bottom's hanging out a little bit, and I don't like that. I'll hack that off too and smooth it all down. I'm telling you, this is like threading a needle, because there's only barely enough room for this. Now, I have this lifted up a ½ an inch to try and better simulate a 2x4 piece of steel tube, but still, it's even wider this way, and I don't know it'll do it. If it does, it'll be damn close. But I clear the material back there. I clear the vise back there, and I clear the material in the front. So I think I'm still pretty much at a 45, although I have to admit I didn't check it before I started this video. Let's check it real quick, and this isn't the best way to check it, I know, but yeah, I'm still at a 45. So it's like threading a needle, but I think I may have successfully done it. We'll see. We'll see. It's 4 o'clock. I'm sweating like a dog. It's over 100 out again. I'm going to go inside and cool down for a bit, and tomorrow morning I'll put the other two tabs on. We'll get some nuts on it. We'll get it bolted down, and we'll get a test 45. Okay, back out working on the chop saw today, and I believe I have it all tacked in place. Sorry for shaking around. It's another 100 and some odd degree day and humid for us, and I've had too many cups of coffee already this morning. And I have everything tacked, and you know what? The more I get this so it works better, the more of a soup sandwich it looks like. And trust me, soup sandwich isn't the phrase I'd like to use here, but it's the one I'm going to use. and I've got this, see the line down here, I've got it lifted so that it simulates the height of a 2x4 steel tube, and I have the bolts in, I have enough wiggle room here and like that, so I've got a fair amount of wiggle room here that I can get it. You see where I'm hitting right there? So I can adjust this enough so that I can get my clearance there. I can keep my clearance on the saw back there, and I have enough wiggle room to get the 45. Okay, so I just finished welding it all up, all these tabs and any missing welds I happen to see as I flipped it around. And there were quite a few, surprisingly enough, or maybe not surprisingly enough. But I think it's all welded now. I'm just happy that I think it's going to do what I want it to do. So my only really thing left to do is mount the saw back on it and just do a final check to make sure I can square it up, and I'm happy with it. And then I guess I could clean it and paint it if I wanted. I don't know that I'm all that worried about it. Might just spray it down with WD-40 and call it good. We'll see. Let's get the saw back in it and see how it works. One thing I think that is worth mentioning is I took a flat disc and I went over all the tops of these surfaces here just to get any rough spots off them. I also took the same flat disc and went across the bottom of this vise just to get all that blue paint off and just kind of smooth the high spots so it will slide a little easier, you know, and make my wiggle room a little easier to wiggle. I also took a file and went in here because there was a lot of casting crap in the middle of these slots, and that made it move quite a bit easier too. So I know it doesn't seem like a big deal now just standing here talking about it, but one thing I really wanted was, not only did I want all these, you know, bolts to turn in and out easily by finger and not have to ram them through with an impact wrench, I also wanted this to slide easy once they were loosened without, you know, having to come and tap it with a mallet one way or the other, or have it grind and hop and catch on stuff. I also wanted my wiggle room. I don't know if you can see it here. I wanted my wiggle room to wiggle easy. And the hardest part was I wanted my wiggle room, when I was in the center of my wiggle room, I wanted that to be a 45. So I wanted a little bit in either direction. And again, had I had to do this over, I might use 3/8 bolts instead of 7/16, because that would give me a little bit more wiggle room, and I wouldn't have to have been so precise about where I located my mounting tabs. Because I tell you, I busted these things off of there, tacked them, busted them off, tacked them, checked it, tacked, busted them off, tacked them, checked it. I must have done that 4 or 5 times before I was happy with it. Anyway, let's get a piece in, and let's get the saw on, and let's see how my cut is. Okay, here we go. I have a piece of 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 square tube in. I think I've got it squared up pretty well. Should be a 45. Let's find out. All right, I haven't cleaned those edges up at all, but let's take a look at it. Perfect? Nope, it's not perfect, is it? Well, that side's pretty good. So that means I didn't get the blade squared up 100%, you know, in the vertical. But anyway, there it is. It now cuts 45s and does a pretty decent 45. Not perfect, but I wasn't expecting perfect or even asking for it. So at this point in time, there isn't much left to do except put it away, or I guess I could clean it up and paint it. That seems kind of drastic. It's a late afternoon in Arizona again, and it's 100+ degrees out, and I'm whooped, so I'm going to clean up and go inside, and I'll think about painting it. So I did decide to go ahead and paint it. I threw a can of the Krylon Fusion black paint and primer combo at it, which is a paint I've had pretty decent luck with. Pretty cheap down at Walmart or Lowe's, and it does work pretty good. And I don't know, I think it's actually pretty nice. It'll work as an upright stand. The person could make a plate to mount here and tuck into a slot back there if you wanted to make a larger plate here. For me, I think this little sliding thing and with the button light on it, I think that's more than sufficient for me. But I may come back in the future and make a plate, but then again, I don't expect to be using it as an upright saw all that often. At least I expect to use it for small things, but I really don't think I'll have anything big to do with it. My big use is going to be, of course, to cut tube to make bumpers and rock sliders, assuming I do it, you know, with the cost of steel being what it is. The vise can be mounted straight. It can be mounted at a 45. I believe I'll be able to cut 2x4 square tube with it, but I won't know until I get a piece of it and try. Oh, and that previous 45 I did earlier, that was off because I had not leveled the blade that way, and it cut kind of through it in an angle, and that's why that was off. Had I got that proper first, I think it would have been damn near perfect. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this build. I know I'm enjoying the fact that it's done and I can get out of this hot garage. This might be my last garage outdoor project until it cools off here, which is probably going to be mid to late September. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Hit notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.